I'm Natalie, 26, standing backstage under the cathedral lights of Boston Symphony Hall, smoothing the lapel of my fresh white coat. Today was supposed to be the holy grail of 4 years of medical school hell. Grades locked. Hippocratic oath memorized. Mom, I finally made it, I whispered, forcing a smile as I looked toward the VIP row. I expected to see pride. Instead, I saw my sister Alyssa standing up, taking a deep breath, and preparing to end my career before it even started. As I reached for the railing, her scream tore through the silence like a physical blow. Stop, she falsified patient records. She is a danger to the public. Alyssa's finger pointed at me like a loaded gun. 2,000 heads turned. My mother covered her mouth in fake horror. My father stared at his shoes. I stood there, under the lights, completely alone, or so they thought. Before I tell you what, I whispered to the dean that made his face go pale. Drop a comment, and let me know where you're listening from tonight. I always like to know who's standing in my corner. I didn't freeze. The silence in the hall was heavy, pressing against my eardrums. But my pulse didn't spike. It steadied. This was the moment I had rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. Usually at 3 in the morning while staring at a ceiling fan. I looked at Alyssa. Her face was twisted. Ugly with the kind of triumph that only comes from destroying someone else. She expected me to cry. She expected me to run off the stage, burying my face in my hands, cementing my guilt forever. Instead, I adjusted my cap. I took a breath that tasted like ozone and antiseptic. And I started walking. Click, click, click. My heels on the hardwood stage sounded like a countdown. The dean, Dr. Gary, stood behind the podium. He wasn't looking at Alyssa. He was looking at me. His expression wasn't judgment. It was assessment. He was a surgeon before he was a dean. He knew how to look for the bleed. I reached the center of the stage. The lights were blinding, hot against my skin. I extended my hand. Dr. Gary took it. His grip was firm, professional. He handed me the diploma, the heavy scroll that represented 4 years of blood, sweat, and caffeine. I leaned in, just an inch, close enough that the microphone wouldn't catch it. But he would. Check patient file 309, I whispered. My voice was steady, low, a flat line. It is a canary trap. The patient doesn't exist, but the IP address that tried to alter the file does. And it belongs to the woman in the front row. Dr. Gary paused. For a second, the whole world stopped. He looked down at the tablet on the podium, then back at me. A smile touched the corners of his mouth. It wasn't a warm smile. It was thin, sharp. The look of a man who just found the tumor and knows exactly how to cut it out. He nodded, just once. Then he looked over my shoulder. Not at my family, but at the security detail standing in the wings. He made a subtle motion with his hand. 2 guards stepped out from the shadows, moving with efficient purpose toward the front row, toward Alyssa. Her scream died in her throat. She looked from the guards to me, and for the first time, I saw the fear. She realized the script had changed. She wasn't the director anymore. She was the target. As they guided her out, kicking and shouting about her rights, I didn't look back. I walked off the stage, clutching my degree, feeling the cool air of the wings hit my face. I wasn't shaking. I was calibrated. But to understand how I executed a perfect takedown in front of 2,000 people, you have to understand that this wasn't a sudden reflex. This wasn't luck. This was a war that started 20 years ago. In a house where love was a limited resource, and I was the one who always came up empty. People ask how a sister could do that. How blood could turn on blood in front of 2,000 strangers. But they ask that because they think this started at the ceremony. It didn't. The scream in the auditorium was just the final symptom of a disease that had been rotting our family from the inside out for 26 years. My mother, Karen, He liked to use the word passionate. When Alyssa cut the hair off my favorite doll until the plastic scalp showed, my mother said Alyssa was just passionate. When Alyssa poured bleach on my science fair project the night before the state finals, my father, Jeffrey, said she was just spirited. They told me I had to be the bigger person. They told me I had to understand that Alyssa felt things deeply, as if her emotions were a weather system we all had to shelter from. And my body was the designated lightning rod. For decades, I believed them. This is the trap of the normalization of cruelty. It is a slow, methodical brainwashing that convinces you that abuse is actually a form of twisted affection. My parents didn't protect me. They conditioned me. They taught me that my safety was secondary to my sister's comfort. They taught me that keeping the peace was more important than telling the truth. I learned to swallow the hurt, to hide my achievements, to dim my own light so it wouldn't cast a shadow on her. But the dynamic shifted when we became adults. The stakes got higher. It wasn't dolls or science projects anymore. It was futures. Alyssa dropped out of nursing school 3 times. She failed the entrance exams. Blamed the professors. Blamed the system. Blamed the anxiety. She never blamed herself. Meanwhile, I got into medical school on a full scholarship. I worked double shifts. I studied until my eyes blurred. I earned every single grade. And that was my crime. My success was a mirror that showed Alyssa her own failures. And she hated me for it. The sabotage became surgical. Mail would go missing. My car keys would vanish on the morning of a big exam. Accidents, my father would say. Avoiding my eyes. Don't accuse your sister. Natalie, you know she's going through a hard time. I accepted it. I absorbed it. Because that is what survivors do. We normalize the abnormal to survive the house we live in. But 6 months ago, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't just petty jealousy anymore. It was quiet. Too quiet. Alyssa stopped making snide comments at dinner. She stopped rolling her eyes when I talked about my rotations. She started asking questions. Specific questions. About my hospital login. About how the grading system worked. About my financial aid. My mother was thrilled. She told me, "Look, she is finally coming around. She is finally supporting you." I wanted to believe it. I wanted a sister so badly that I ignored the instinct screaming in the back of my head. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I let my guard down. And that is exactly when she started deleting me. It started with a glitch. A timestamp on my clinical rotation log was off by 4 hours. Then, a file I hadn't opened in weeks appeared in my recent documents folder. Small things. Things you could blame on a server error or a tired brain. But I wasn't tired. I was hyper-vigilant. I didn't call my parents. I didn't ask Alyssa if she had been on my laptop. That was the old Natalie. The one who begged for explanations she would never get. The new Natalie hired a professional. His name was Joshua. He was a forensic data analyst who usually worked with corporate espionage cases. Not family drama. We met in a coffee shop 3 towns over. I slid my laptop across the table, feeling foolish. Like I was the paranoid girl my family always said I was. Joshua didn't laugh. He plugged in a drive, typed a few lines of code, and watched the screen. 10 minutes later, he turned the laptop back to me. "Someone has mirrored your credentials," he said. "They are logging in every night between 2 and 4 in the morning. They aren't just looking, Natalie. They are editing." My stomach dropped. Who, I asked, though I already knew. He pointed to a string of numbers on the screen. The IP address. It matches the residential network registered to a Jeffrey and Karen in Boston. The air left my lungs. It was confirmed. My sister was hacking into my medical school records from my parents' living room. Likely while they slept upstairs. Or worse, while they sat right there watching television, ignoring the glow of the screen. In that moment, a wave of nausea hit me. And then came the urge. The compulsion. I wanted to pick up my phone. I wanted to call my mother. I wanted to scream. Make her stop. Why are you letting her do this? I wanted to drive home and beg Alyssa to hate me less. This is the invisible chain of the survivor. It is called the fawn response. When you spend a lifetime walking on eggshells, your instinct when threatened isn't to fight or flee, it is to appease. It is a desperate, pathetic need to fix the mood, to de-escalate the abuser, to make yourself smaller so the hurting stops. My thumb hovered over my father's contact name. I wanted to be the good daughter one last time. I wanted to ask for mercy. But then I looked at Joshua. He wasn't looking at me with pity. He was waiting for instructions. I put the phone down. I took a breath. I visualized that chain snapping. I was done appeasing. I was done begging for safety in a house that wanted to destroy me. We need to catch her, I said. Not with a guess. With proof. Joshua nodded. He opened a new window. We are going to build a canary trap, he explained. We will create a digital file that looks important. Something tempting. Something that would ruin you, if it were true. But the file will be empty. It will just be a beacon. If she opens it. If she tries to edit it, the software will log her device ID, her location, and the exact keystrokes she uses. We created Patient 309, a fake profile, a fake history, and a fake medical error that looked devastatingly real. We planted it in the secure folder. And then, we waited. I went back to my apartment. I studied for my finals. And I let my sister think she was winning. I let her think she was the predator, stalking me in the dark. She had no idea that she had just walked into a cage, and I was holding the key. The ceremony ended in a blur of polite applause and averted eyes. I didn't stay for the reception. I didn't stay for the congratulations that would undoubtedly be laced with pity. I walked straight to the green room backstage, closed the door, and sat on a folding chair. The silence was absolute. Then, I turned my phone back on. It vibrated against my palm like a living thing. A relentless, angry buzz that didn't stop for 3 full minutes. The notifications stacked up on the lock screen. A wall of text from the people who were supposed to be my safety net. From Mom, you humiliated your sister. How could you be so cruel? Fix this immediately. Go out there and tell them it was a misunderstanding. From Dad, you have ruined the family name. Do you have any idea who was in that audience? You need to issue a public apology to Alyssa. Now. From Mom, she is in the parking lot having a panic attack. I hope you are proud of yourself. You are selfish. You always have been. I read them once. Then I read them again. There was no question of, is it true? No, Natalie. Did you actually do it? No. Are you okay? There was only the immediate, reflexive defense of the aggressor. Even with security dragging Alyssa out. Even with the dean's nod confirming her guilt. My parents had already rewritten the narrative. In their version of reality, I wasn't the victim of a felony. I was the villain who made a scene. This is the gaslight ward. It is a place where reality is twisted until it snaps. Where the person holding the knife blames you for bleeding on the carpet. I didn't reply. I didn't feel the urge to defend myself. That part of me, the daughter who craved their validation, had died on that stage. Instead, I opened social media. Alyssa had been busy. She had posted a video 10 minutes ago. It was already racking up views. In it, she was sitting in her car, mascara strategically smeared under her eyes, her voice trembling with practiced fragility. I tried to speak up. She whispered to the camera, wiping away a tear. I tried to warn people that patients were in danger, and they silenced me. My own sister. She has powerful friends. They threw me out for being a whistleblower. I just wanted to save lives. It was a masterclass in manipulation. She was pivoting. She knew she couldn't deny the hacking. So she was reframing it as a moral crusade. She was banking on the public's distrust of institutions, painting herself as the martyr and me as the corrupt establishment. I watched the view count tick upward. 500. 1,000. Comments were starting to roll in. Stay strong. Your sister sounds toxic. Truth always comes out. I stared at the screen. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel the crushing weight of their combined gaslighting. I felt clarity. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to apologize. They were going to burn my career to the ground to keep Alyssa warm. My compassion had been a luxury they had overdrafted for years. Now, the account was closed. I took a screenshot of the video. Then I took screenshots of my parents' texts, demanding I lie to cover up a crime. I forwarded everything to Kimberly, my lawyer. Then I stood up. I took off my white coat, folded it neatly, and placed it in my bag. I wasn't going home to cry. I was going to the war room. Because Alyssa had made one critical mistake in her rush to play the victim. She thought this was just about reputation. She thought it was just about a few altered records. She didn't know what Joshua and I had found in the financial logs. She didn't know that the canary trap had caught something far bigger than jealousy. It had caught a felony that carried a 10-year sentence. I slipped out the back of the auditorium and into the cold Boston air, flagged a cab, and headed straight to the law offices of Sterling and Finch. No more gaslighting. It was time to cut into the truth. Inside the glass and steel fortress, I sat across from my attorney, Kimberly, and the forensic analyst, Joshua. We have the altered records, the IP match, the logs. I said, is it enough? Joshua turned his laptop. When we set the canary trap, we found more than tampered clinical notes. Once we traced the device ID, we saw what your sister was really after. A spreadsheet appeared timestamps, routing codes. She wasn't just sabotaging your reputation. She tried to redirect your tuition refund and then your $185. 000 neuromapping research grant into an offshore account. I felt the floor tilt. She tried to steal my grant. This is federal, Kimberly said. Wire fraud. Identity theft. We're going to the FBI. 3 days later, my family arrived for a meeting. My parents looked terrified. Alyssa walked in like she still owned the room. Kimberly slid the bank logs across the table. This isn't about a graduation stunt, she said. This is a 6-figure theft attempt. My father went pale. Alyssa exploded. It's not fair. She gets everything. I deserved that money. I finally saw her clearly not hurt. Not remorseful, but enraged that the world refused to reward her entitlement. You earned none of it, I said quietly. You just wanted the payout. My mother begged. She didn't mean it. She did, I said. And she's a criminal. Kimberly ended it. We're filing today. Any contact with my client will count as witness tampering. The fallout came fast. Alyssa was charged, blacklisted, and placed on strict probation. My parents drained their retirement to pay her legal fees and sold the family house. I didn't go back. In my new apartment near the hospital, surrounded by clean silence, I opened my phone and deleted 3 contacts: Mom, Dad, Alyssa. Not blocked, erased. The sun set over the city, bruised purple and gold. For the first time, the air I breathed was mine. The surgery was successful. The tumor was gone. And at 26, the patient finally lived. If you've ever had to cut out a piece of your family to survive, share your story. You're not alone. Like and subscribe for more stories of survival.